Hello and welcome back to the Groupthink Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be continuing the next in our recent lineup of interviewing members of the conservative film blogosphere. We previously had on Jacob Airy of the Daily Wire and Ethan Collins of the Ed Blog, and this week we have Sarah Hargett, who is the writer of the blog How to Watch a Film, if I'm correct.
How to Watch a Movie.
How to Watch a Movie, yes. So tell us how you kind of got drawn into this little circle of ours that we kind of all cohabitate in bizarrely.
Well, I started blogging back in 2012 after I saw Avengers, because I just really loved that movie, and I wanted to describe how much I loved it, because it helps me figure out what I liked about it to write about it. So I started blogging, and I did that for maybe 4 or 5 years before I joined Twitter. And then from there, I just ended up getting into the conservative side of it too, just because I am conservative, and I would follow some conservative people and then find out, oh, they're bloggers too, or find movie reviewers and, oh, they're conservatives too. And it just kind of got into that, I guess.
Sure. It's a veritable web that I've kind of discovered recently between Jacob and me and a lot of the Ed guys, and
yeah.
So I wanted to have you on because I like some of your spicy hot takes and your willingness to just kind of go head to head with some people about their popular opinions on Twitter.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to kind of talk more about what your thoughts on this, specifically this summer, but I guess this year in cinema has been, because I think this has been one of the weakest years of cinema I think I've seen in the past 5 years, and there's been a couple really bad years recently in the last few, but the drought this year is just astounding. Yeah,
it was really bad for a long time, and I haven't even given a movie 5 stars yet this year, but it definitely has picked up since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. And then Ad Astra after that.
Yeah, but that was after July.
Yeah, so it was really bad for a really long time.
I remember back in 2016, there was there were a couple good movies for the first 4 months that year. I liked Kung Fu Panda 3, but I remember that year in particular, it was just really rough. And then I had some problems with Civil War, and then it just turned into whenever the first 6 months of the year go by and I don't love something in the theaters, I just get really, really antsy. Mm-hmm. And this year has been like that really badly. So I guess just kind of transitioning into it, I thought it might be fun to go over all of the big releases this year so far, and what you were, both big and the small indie stuff too, because I know you've seen a couple of those, and just kind of talk about what you think is what the highlights of this year have been.
Okay.
So I noticed we're both into Don Quixote.
Oh yeah, you liked that one?
I liked it more the second time I watched it. I didn't like it the first time.
Yeah, okay, that's true for me too. I actually watched it 5 times in a week. Yeah, because my rental was for a week, and I was like, I can't waste this, and I watched it twice, and then I was like, wait, I liked it so much more the second time, and then I kept watching it and liking it more every single time.
Oh wow, that's commitment.
Yeah. I didn't have anything else to do that week,
Oh, I'm so jealous. I mean, I just remember I saw it in the theater the night that it got that one night release in theaters.
Oh yeah, I had to miss that, so I just watched.
Oh man, I mean, I went all out because I'd been waiting for that film since I had first heard about it years before, and I was like, I'm all in. I'm gonna get all the food they have in the theater, and then I watched it, and I'm like, it was underwhelming.
But you like it more now?
Oh yeah, now that my expectations are leveled, I'm much happier with it now.
Yeah, it's the sort of movie that you just have to take for what it is, or else you're just not going to enjoy it at all, because it's so strange.
Yeah,
and there's nothing else like it.
How familiar are you with Terry Gilliam's other films?
Not too familiar. I've seen 12 Monkeys and Monty Python, of course.
Of course.
I can't remember if I have seen any others.
I've at this point I've seen the majority of his. I mean, his two biggest ones are, of course, Brazil and Fisher King.
Oh, I have seen Brazil, but I haven't seen Fisher King.
Fisher King is kind of, I think it's kind of a better version of the Don Quixote premise from like in terms of execution. I mean, it's just about like a radio jockey who unintentionally sends a man into delusion and into thinking he's like a knight running around New York.
Okay.
So it's got the same Don Quixote premise, but it was written when it's kind of at his peak. So I kind of think that's a better version of him exploring that story. But I think that the Don Quixote story is something that shows up in most of his films to one degree or another. I don't know if you've read the book at all, because it's one of those things I don't expect most people have read.
Yeah, I never did.
Yeah, I mean it's a 900-page 16th century Spanish book, so I don't. I
guess not many people have.
Yeah, I don't judge people for not having read it, but
yeah,
I wanted to have the context going into it, and I will say the movie. The more I think about it, the more the movie actually does pretty kind of stay toward like the actual arc of the book, which is strange because it cuts it down to like 90 minutes. But
that's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, but what are the big standouts for you? You said Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Ad Astra. What have there been any other major standouts for you?
I think the next biggest one that I liked was probably Alita, which was less of an artsy film, just more very enjoyable because I like science fiction.
I can pick that up from a lot of your recent tweeting.
Yeah. I did a whole thread on science fiction movies.
Yeah, that was all in the lead up to Ad Astra, which is the most recent thing. But yeah, I liked Alita a lot. I mean, I remember going into it not exactly sure what I was getting into, and then it quickly became like politicized somewhat because all the people that didn't like Captain Marvel were like, go see Alita instead.
Yeah, and then it was like a bad stigma for the other side. They're like, oh, we're not going to go see it because it's competing with Captain Marvel. But no, it's just, they're both fine. You can go see both of them. It's no big deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did, but I see everything, so it wasn't...
Yeah.
I mean, of the two, I'd say I liked a little bit more, but... It's definitely...
I liked it way more than Captain Marvel, but, like, it's, like, they're completely different movies. Like, the fact that a female leads them is, like, very irrelevant.
Sure. I mean, Alita is this weird thing where it's written by the guy who wrote Avatar, but it's directed by the guy who directed Spy Kids.
Yeah.
So it sits at this weird intersection where you have like a pretty well written story that has a lot happening, and then just the most out there action set pieces of like any movie you've gotten in years.
Yeah, so you can really feel both of their influences in it.
Yeah, and it's
very strange.
Yeah, I mean, you get all the sprawling set pieces look great in like this Avatar-esque world, and then all the characters you meet all look like they just ascended up from the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Which weirdly, Alita was like the least off-putting character in the movie.
Yeah. All the ones that you could see the actual robotics on them was like the weirder ones.
Wait, that might have been intentional, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even really mind that it was Uncanny Valley because it like kind of like influenced the tone of the movie somehow, and made it feel different, and it was like all the time, so it didn't really take you out of the movie every time it happened because it was always there,
I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that's intentionally used the Uncanny Valley as a...
They probably didn't, but it just didn't really bother me, once you got over the first hurdle of it, I guess.
That would be fascinating. There's a good video essay I saw once about where someone was like, I wonder if someone could purposely make the CGI off-putting just to affect the audience. I mean, that would have to be like done in like some sort of weird experimental way that with that in mind, like I can't imagine that like actually paying off in any sort of meaningful way.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I have my giant binder full of all the stubs I have saved from this year with me, so I'm just gonna start kind of reading things off.
Nice.
Did you see Glass?
No, I didn't. I did watch the previous one to that this year. What was that one called? Split.
Yeah.
I watched Split because I was like, oh, we should go see Glass, and then Split just like killed the bubble, and I didn't want to see Glass anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, at this point, I don't know why Shyamalan is still directing movies. I mean, apparently he just got picked up by Universal to do 2 more movies, and
Wow.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. I mean, Split felt like it was the last straw, but
Yeah.
which I
Every
like.
time he makes a new movie, I'm like, oh, maybe this one will be like his old ones. Maybe no.
Who's he
It never
convincing?
turns out.
Who's this person behind the scenes who's just like, this time, we got it. But
Yeah.
yeah, someone is getting really badly cheated out of their money. Did you see Lego Movie or the sequel to Lego Movie?
Yeah, I did see that one. I didn't care for it as much as the first one. I liked the first one so much
Yeah,
that it felt cheap.
this year's we had 2 big animated movies that kind of seemed to be leaving people a little bit cold. It was that and Toy Story 4.
Oh
But
yeah, I didn't even watch that one.
I mean
I'm
I
scared too.
I kind of get why they're off-putting. Although I will say I kind of I walked out of both of them pretty decently happy. I haven't watched Lego Movie in a while, but I remember this. I remember I saw it and I was like, this movie doesn't work relative to the first movie, but it's a very happy movie.
Yeah, like it's not offensive or anything. It's just that you're like, okay, yeah, it's a sequel. Like it could be like a good movie if they really wanted it to be, but instead it was just a sequel.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot How to Train Your Dragon 3 came out this year.
Oh, did it? Wow.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
That's streaming on Hulu now. I should watch it.
It's not bad. I mean, it's so inferior to the first 2. It's sad.
Oh, that's too bad. I didn't like the second one as much as the first one.
That's fair. I mean, the second one, it felt like it was just trying to get so much huger, but
Yeah.
there's only so much I think you can do with that idea.
Yeah. All the characters were like done from the first movie, so
Yeah.
wasn't really anywhere interesting to go.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, I mean, you can judge a sequel out of anything, as the Kung Fu Panda movies have shown. But I don't know why those have suffered, or why those are inferior to Kung Fu Panda. At least in terms of the sequels.
I don't even remember if I've seen the Kung Fu Panda sequels.
They're
If
they're
I did, I
actually,
completely forgot them.
like, aside from the side cast who doesn't get much to do, like all the post stuff in those movies is great.
Yeah, because Jack Black, right?
Well, yeah, even that is just written well. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised how well written the Kung Fu Panda sequels are compared to a lot of things. And the more controversial side, did you end up seeing the Jordan Peele follow-up Us?
No, but I haven't seen Get Out either, so I'm really behind on
Oh
this.
wow, you are. I mean,
I was on the verge of seeing Get Out in theaters, and then we're like, no, we can wait for it to be streaming, and then it was never streaming anywhere that I actually have.
oof,
So it's like not available to me unless I buy it.
that is a hate crime in some circles.
I'll watch it eventually, though. I don't know if I want to see Us. That one looks a little creepier.
Yeah, I mean, Get Out is like half comedy too. It's kind of at this weird intersection where it's clearly a horror movie, but there's a lot more overt attempts to make it funny. Where Us, it feels like it's just going straight like all John Carpenter, and it's not holding back. Although it's not overly gory though. So actually,
Well, gore isn't what bothers me. It's the stuff that's scary scares me. That like bothers me.
okay.
Like gore is fine, but like creepy stuff that will like give me nightmares is no.
That's fair. I mean, I think it's not like there's any like extreme jump scares or anything. It's just more of a sustained, I guess,
Yeah.
thriller than anything else.
Like Hereditary, that was the worst movie.
Oh,
I should never have seen that.
I know a lot of people that really like Hereditary, and I did not. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I just couldn't get invested in what was going on with it, but
It was terrifying. I still like look up in my ceiling sometimes at night and imagine that Toni Collette is up there.
I mean, there are some those shots where the characters are like quietly moving around in the background are pretty unsettling.
Yeah, it just
But-
freaked me out, and it was disturbing too. It wasn't really like I can stand it if it's like an uplifting story or something, or some other worthwhile aspect, like in The Conjuring. You know, they're scary, but I can handle it because there's worthwhile aspects. But Hereditary was like, It's very scary, very disturbing, and it's a downer. And the sets look nice, and there's good acting. But that's not worth it for my taste.
And then it just ends on like a weird abstract. I didn't quite get the end.
It didn't make any sense. None of that made sense. Like, I was trying to figure out the logistics of who was being possessed at what time and stuff, and it just did not make any sense at all.
I'm guessing it's a movie that kind of gets lost in abstraction. Like, it's like if you're reading it symbolically, maybe it makes more sense. But
or I don't know. I don't really care to think about it that much.
Yeah,
I'm just oh, whatever. I just didn't like it, I
Yeah,
guess.
worst thing I can say about it is I don't care to watch it again. So.
Yeah, definitely not.
Good grief. I mean, speaking of that, the guy who directed that did Midsummer, which I have not seen.
Oh my god, I will never watch the movie.
It's,
I heard it. I looked into spoilers because I was like, I'm not gonna watch this movie unless there's something good about it. So I dug into it to see, and there's no way I will ever watch that movie.
Well, what came up that you didn't like about it?
Just the things that happen in it, and then the way it ends and stuff. And people are like, oh yeah, it's good because of this or whatever, but I disagree. People are like, he didn't deserve that, and I agree he did not deserve that. So the whole point of it is just completely moot for me. And then it's probably disturbing and scary and annoying in other places, just like Hereditary was. So I'm just not gonna bother.
Okay, I mean, I didn't really. All the reviews I saw that said it was technically really good, but then I don't know the actual details of what was going on with the plot, so I'll have to take your word on that.
Yeah.
I guess this moves into the big stuff that's started coming out in the summer. Shazam, Endgame, Detective Pikachu, stuff like that. What have you liked and not liked among the bigger movies?
I enjoy the bigger movies. I liked Shazam. I liked Endgame. What was the other one?
I mentioned Detective Pikachu, but I can keep
Detective Pikachu. I liked that one. They're not great movies, and they have good aspects and bad aspects, and that's just what it usually is with big movies, isn't it? You're just oh well, I'm gonna enjoy it.
I mean, there are sometimes where there are years when it's a lot better than other years.
That's true. Sometimes.
And Endgame seems to have really kind of hit a nerve. I mean, I don't know if you saw the review I posted for it, but I came down on the decidedly middling side in terms of that.
Yeah, I can't remember what you said specifically.
I had to pull up my review, but I basically just said that I felt the movie didn't really pay off a lot of what it was been set up in all the previous movies. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it's fascinating just watching all the people that consider it just the best, one of the best Marvel movies ever.
Yeah, it is. That's a word for it.
You think it is, or?
Yeah. No, that's a word. Fascinating. It's more irritating, in my opinion. I mean, I didn't mind the movie. I enjoyed the movie, watching it, but listening to people talk about it like it's the second coming is just it irks me for some reason. It shouldn't bother me that other people like a movie, but sometimes it just does.
I mean, it's one of those things I've been talking about a lot on this show, is that there's a lot of people who don't really know how to communicate what it is they want out of a movie. So I think for a lot of lore obsessed comic nerds, Endgame is pretty much exactly what they wanted. Something that kind of just it addresses all of the fun aspects of superhero movies and pays off all the lore and stuff like that. But I'm sitting here I want an actual movie, though.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and Marvel's not incapable of doing that, because I think they do that really well with the Guardians movies and a couple of their other solo movies.
Yeah, they have. It kind of...
They're way too comfortable just skating by on average.
Yeah. Well, now fan service movie, and everyone will pay, and it will be the highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I almost forgot about that. That's kind of... It was fun watching Avatar get dethroned, but it was so strange watching that movie in particular do it.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it that much. I actually kind of like Avatar, just because I like the world building. So I was like, just like rolling my eyes at it. Like, it doesn't really matter ultimately, but yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't hate Avatar either, but I know a lot of people do, and they got their reasons to do it. But I don't remember how that movie got to where it was back a decade ago when that became the highest grossing film.
yeah, it was just like some kind of strange phenomenon. I remember going to see it and then hearing about it and being like, what? Why does a highest grossing movie matter? Well, that's kind of interesting. It was like the first movie that I ever heard was the highest grossing movie of all time. Yeah.
I would
It
have
was
been
just like, came out of the blue.
I would have been in some sort of 14-year-old fever dream at the time, so I don't remember anything like about that. It was like, oh, I'm a freshman in high school. What's that? There's a movie out? Okay, cool.
You didn't watch movies back then?
Oh, I distinctly remember that the first year I started going to the movies was 2011, and it's because for the first time in my life, I went out and watched 3 movies without going with my family. And I think it was Captain America: The First Avenger, Deathly Hallows Part 2, and then Transformers: Dark of the Moon. And
Nice.
it was just this weird summer where I realized I can go see movies without people. And suddenly I was just going to the movies constantly, and then by the next year I was actually starting to see everything that came out. But up until that point, like I only watched movies when I would like get them as like Christmas presents or stuff like that. I was so sheltered.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then I started writing in 2013 and just kind of spiraled from there. But,
Yeah, it's definitely a spiral.
oh gosh, yeah. That's why I have my entire folder of just ticket stubs. It's like an actual binder, but
I have them in a mason jar.
oh. That actually sounds kind of aesthetically pleasing, unlike this.
It is a little bit. I have my theater tickets up there too. My acting shows, theater, musical theater, that kind of stuff. It's all together.
Unlike this giant Hulk, but and so yeah, in terms of, I guess we kind of agree on all the big stuff, but like other than like Shazam, which was just kind of weirdly good.
Yeah, it was weirdly good. You're like, it's good, but like, it is weird. But it's good.
Yeah,
but it's weird.
it's weird in the way DC movies are good and that they're complete flukes.
Yeah, they're also like, the more unique it is, the more likely the DC movie is to be good, and like the way it stands out, you know.
Yeah, but like other than that, like the other big ones I can think of this year are like the Godzilla and
Ugh.
stuff like that. Like even John Wick. A lot of this has been like I was left pretty cold by.
You were with John Wick 3?
I'm the biggest John Wick proponent in the world. I was cold in the third movie. I don't know. I'd have to judge up why I thought that, but I just remember as a time. Oh, I'll tell you exactly why. It's because the movie doesn't end.
Hey, what? It doesn't?
Well, it should have.
Is there gonna be another one?
Yeah, it ends on like blatant sequel bait. I'm like,
Oh man.
I went into it being like, okay, this is gonna be the one where they kind of wrap it up, or they set up a new status quo, where they kind of answer like this character's story arc in some meaningful way, and not really. They just kind of just drag it out. I'm like, why would you do that?
That's weird.
Like this is John Wick. This series is supposed to be a notch above everything else, and it ends on like
Yeah.
this obnoxious.
It's supposed to be
sequel
like
bait.
the new Bourne movies or something.
Yeah, I don't.
It just keep getting worse.
I didn't even see the fourth. What was the fourth one? Jason Bourne.
Oh my gosh, that was so bad.
Oh man.
That shouldn't even count. I do like the one with Jeremy Renner though, the spinoff.
I've heard good things about that. I mean, I still haven't even gotten around to watching that. I mean,
It has really good stunts in it.
as far as I'm concerned, once you're past Ultimatum, you're kind of at a weird position.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's too bad about John Wick though. I liked the first one more than I thought I would, because I don't like just like straight up action movies, but it was kind of visceral in an interesting way.
That's fair.
But then the second one was just boring.
I would disagree on that, but we can.
Yeah, I know most people do, so it's okay.
I mean, I know some people.
I might not just get it. I might need to watch it again or something.
I know a lot of people that like the first one infinitely more than the second one, so it's not an uncommon opinion, but. Well, sorry for the yawning. I got sent to on a hour and a half van run to the airport from my work, so And she's an hour later than me, so she's taking it so much harder than I am, I'm sure.
I stay up so late though. This is just like normal, like time to start a movie time for me.
Oh man, I'm becoming such a senior citizen. If I put a movie on past 8 o'clock, I'm gonna be like, oh man, I'm gonna fall asleep half an hour into it. Why?
Yeah, the later I stay up, the more easy it is for me to stay up. So I get like in a terrible cycle.
Why am I so old? I'm only 24. I shouldn't be doing this.
It's not old.
So
Just wait. You'll feel so old once you hit a quarter of a century.
Oh god. Well, that's in January, man. You're killing me, Smalls. So, a lot of the movies I've seen this year are action movies, depressingly. But what have you seen much indie stuff this year?
We went to see The Dead Don't Die. That was the big indie one that I saw, and it was kind of disappointing. But it did have Adam Driver in it.
Oh man, the heartthrob.
He's great. He's hilarious.
Well, Adam Driver is amazing in everything he's in, no matter how bad the movie is.
Yeah, yeah.
I would add, I don't think I've seen him in a bad movie so far. I didn't finish.
That's only because you haven't seen The Dead Don't Die yet.
I mean, I've heard it's a Jim Jarmusch movie, and have you watched any Jim Jarmusch movies?
I saw Patterson, and that was great.
Okay, that was another Adam Driver movie, but I mean, he makes movies a very distinct way that there's like no audience appeal whatsoever. But
yeah, but like Patterson was in a really weird way. That was him, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was. It's like it has to be a certain kind of audience because it's literally no plot and it's just going through his week and like writing poems. But like for me, it's just so relaxing to just sit there and watch it.
I remember I tried to watch it once and I wasn't in a relaxed mood and I just got really irritated by it.
Yeah, I can see that.
I want to watch it though because I think I might like Jim Jarmusch if I give him like a more of a chance.
Yeah.
I know Dead Man is supposed to be his best one, but
I don't think I've even heard of that one.
That's his guy who played Jack Sparrow, whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Johnny Depp?
Yeah, that's his. It's a Western starring Johnny Depp.
Huh, that's interesting.
It's from the 90s, but yeah, I didn't know what to go in. I haven't seen Dead Don't Die yet because it came out at a time where basically every single indie movie I was hearing news about was getting just absolutely trashed. Like that came out. That came out, and then within like 2 weeks, both Yesterday and Midsummer came out, and both those got trashed. So I just didn't go to the movies for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I went to see it anyway just because I liked the trailer, but it wasn't that great.
The trailer made it look like Zombieland.
Yeah, but like an indie Zombieland, but it wasn't really like that. It was kind of dumb.
Yeah, I mean that was the weirdest thing. Like it's one of those things where a studio finds itself with a film and they're like, "Oh, let's just blatantly lie in the marketing material so that we can get more money."
Get some audience in there. It doesn't matter if they hate it, right?
Yeah, I hate when they do that. That is the most scummy thing. But was it true the movie had some like weird like anti-MAGA stuff in it?
Yeah, it had Steve Buscemi in it, and he had like the red hat. What did it say? Make America White Again or something like that.
Oh, that's.
And then later he gets like killed by zombies, and no one in the movie cares.
That's pretty kind of unsettling. But...
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny in a way, but it's like obviously a dig at MAGA and stuff.
I mean, I'm not a. I should say I'm not a Trumpkin, so I'm not violently offended. But
yeah, like it's not like who cares? But it's still there.
You're telling me. I mean, people are so sensitive nowadays. I mean, there was all that stuff about the hunt like month and a half ago.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't even know what happened with that.
Well, the funny thing...
How did that end up being a controversy?
Well, it's because people took one glance at the trailer and then they didn't put any thought into it.
Yeah.
Because the movie, it's very clear that the guys hunting the MAGA people are the bad guys. Which
the MAGA people are bad guys. No, the MAGA people are the good guys, aren't they?
Well, I meant the guys yeah, they are. The guys that were hunting them are the bad guys. They're the
Yeah.
the elitists.
Yeah.
And somehow that got spun into a narrative of this movie endorses killing Republicans, which
Yeah, like how did that happen? That's just silly.
I assume
The heroes are going to be the MAGA people. So it obviously endorses like defending yourself against the elites, which is why they should be upset on the other side.
I guess the word got out too quickly, and then no one bothered to correct it. So, I have to tell my editor, you are fake news, because my even Legal Insurrection covered it, and I was gonna try to cover it, but I feel bad, and now I feel bad. Now I'm working for fake news, guys. I love my editor, but there was some bad editorializing. I mean, I don't know if I would have gone to see the movie because it didn't look good, but
I wouldn't have even given it the time of day. I would have never noticed it.
yeah, I mean, everyone seems to forget that most Blumhouse movies are objectively terrible. Like it's like the Purge movies are like super political and like got all these weird themes in them about like the government like we're gonna start killing the poor. And I knew a guy in high school who was like, "Man, this could actually happen." No.
Oh man, that last The Purge movie was actually funny. It was so over the top.
Was it actually funny? I mean,
yeah, I laughed. Me and my brothers watched it, and we had a good laugh.
Well, that's I guess that's the best way to take away from it. But
yeah.
Did you see the photo of Glenn Beck hanging out with Jason Blum?
No, I don't think so.
It went around Twitter a couple weeks ago. It was the weirdest thing. Apparently, Beck, Jason Blumhouse guy and Glenn Beck are friends in real life. I don't see it. Like I do not get what they mutually have in common.
Yeah.
I mean, good for him because it's nice. It's nice when people who don't get along can reach out and be friends behind the scenes. But
yeah, it probably happens more often than you think.
It's still weird. I mean, what are you gonna do though? I mean, I'm glad that they ultimately that's what they did. But sorry, I got distracted for a moment. My computer was acting weird. So, in terms of me, in indie movies, this has been a weird year overall for that. I meant, have you seen any of the Cinestate movies?
Cinestate?
Yeah, like Dragged Across Concrete or Standoff at Sparrow Creek.
No, I haven't seen those.
That's to me has been my biggest find of the year. It's there's a director called Craig S. Saylor who's an indie guy. He did Bone Tomahawk and Brawl in Cell Block 99, and he's joined this little film studio down in Texas called Cinestate, and its publicist is Sonny Bunch from the Washington Post, who, if you've ever seen him on Twitter, he is very conservative. So it's led me to the conclusion that they're a subterfuge conservative film studio, which it makes sense if you see in the movies because they're all like old school thrillers, and they've all got these like baseline. I guess you could call it dog whistling. Like Brawl in Cell Block 99, the whole story is about a woman who's being held up while her husband's in jail, and they're gonna like force her to terminate her pregnancy unless he kills a guy in jail. Wow. Which is like, that is like Breitbartian levels of conservative. And then now their their newest one, which is Standoff. It's about a little militia that's out in the middle of the woods that they're being accused of one of them is going on a cop killing spree, and they're all like, we gotta figure out who did it and throw him under the bus before the cops show up. And it ends up being like a super conservative note by the end of the movie.
That's cool.
I mean, yeah, those are both two of the best things I've seen this year. Honestly, they're both going to be on my end of the year list because I think they're just really amazingly tightly written thrillers, and it's fascinating just to see that that's going on the edge of the film industry while everything else is so woke.
Yeah, that's nice. I should look into watching those, I guess. Need to get some non-woke movies in there.
Yeah, fair warning on Zaylor. He always throws in at least one insanely gory moment out of nowhere in all of his movies. Like, usually it's completely out of nowhere, too, so it's just like, oh, that happened just now.
That's cool. I can handle gore. I'll be okay.
I mean, that first time I saw first time I saw Bone Tomahawk, it's burned into my brain. I will never forget it. So, I guess we can kind of move on to like the big recent ones. Where are you on Hollywood? Once Upon a Time.
I liked it. I really, really liked it.
I think that's like, outside of like one person I've seen who's so woke he can't function. The movie seems to be basically universally lauded.
Yeah, it's just like a classically good movie.
I mean, it's weird in the sense that there's like not a lot actually happens in it, and it's weird, and it's pretty long for a movie where not a lot actually happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, obviously it's really solid overall. I mean, you can expect that from Tarantino. Where does that sit for you in your list of his films?
It's at the top. I don't like that many Tarantino movies. That is way at the top. And then the next one down is probably Inglourious Basterds. And then maybe Jackie Brown after that. And then I don't even like the rest of them that I've seen. Like Kill Bill, I don't like that one.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen all of them yet.
I watched all of them back in... I used to do a series on my blog called the Movie Spotlights, where I would just watch an entire director's filmography over the course of a couple days. And I watched all of them in about, like, 3 days. And
wow.
I didn't like Kill Bill for some reason. Everyone's told me that's, like, their favorite one, and I didn't get it. Death Proof sucks. And a couple of them did not play well the first time I watched it. Like, I still haven't seen Reservoir Dogs since the first time I watched it, but I mean, I kind of appreciate how hipsterish your list is, but just because there are so many people that just kind of gravitate to the same 2 or 3 of his, and like, oh, it's always Pulp Fiction or it's always Inglourious.
Oh yeah, I didn't like Pulp Fiction that much either. It was weird.
Oh wow.
I liked the dance scene though.
You said it was
rude?
I
can appreciate those movies. Like, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, there's good artistry in that. But it just isn't the sort of movie that I'm going to want to watch multiple times. Can you hear my cat meowing?
Yeah, your house seems very busy at the moment. Like, I've heard meowing, I've heard talking, or I hope that's talking, otherwise you may be haunted, but...
I don't know. There's definitely a cat in here. Yeah, but... Tarantino's just not usually my cup of tea, but I really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It just like really clicked for me.
It did for me too. I mean, it's a weird combination. Like I said, it's weird that it's just like that the movie is so as laid back as it is. I mean, I kind of like that because it feels like it could be something that you could reasonably just kind of like stick on and relax to watch, at least up until the end.
Yeah. Just a nice day in the life, and then capped off by some murder.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people that were absolutely just apoplectic about how brutal the ending fight scene is.
Yeah,
but
I like that. I was like watching an interview, and Brad Pitt was like, "Are we going too far with this?" And then Tarantino was like, "No,"
oh, God.
Like smashing the girl's face into the wall. And watching it, I was like, they're going too far, but I'm really enjoying this. Like, this is so good. Like, it's so violent, and I'm not sure that's okay, but like, it's so good.
There's a really good review. I think it was Polygon it was at Polygon. I have to find it, but it said that the whole point of that like scene is ultimately kind of paying off whether or not the entire morality of whether or not it's brutal is ultimately paid off away by whether or not you think Brad Pitt actually killed his wife or not. Because I mean, if it's...
That's interesting.
If he did kill his wife, then it's a brutally violent man being rewarded for being brutally violent, and then that's the sad satirical point it's making about Hollywood. Or if he didn't, it's about a guy who was falsely accused of being horrible, redeeming himself in some way, and then being given, like, some level of public redemption for all of the horrible things that have happened to him.
Yeah, okay. I definitely don't think that he killed his wife.
Why is that?
It just didn't. There was no reason to include it if he did kill his wife, it seemed like to me. Because the whole point of including it was so that you could see how he was being ostracized over a rumor. And, like, if he had killed her, then, like, wouldn't they have, like, shown something of it? Like, there's the fact that there was, like, no actual, like, scene where he does it. You know, it just, like, doesn't make sense why they would include it unless it was just him being accused of something he didn't do, it seemed like to me. It kind of, like, reflected to me, like, the Me Too movement, or, like, false accusation of things, and how it just, like, ruined someone's life. Because people didn't want to work with him because of a rumor.
I could see that. I think that it goes a level deeper than that, where I think that the ambiguity is the point. I think more than even if he did or did he not do it. It's just that the fact that no one knows that he did it.
Exactly. He could have done it, but the point is that no one knows, but they still believe that he did.
Yeah, and it's really hard to tell having just watching him in the film, because he's this weird combination of seemingly a decent person who doesn't really go out of his way to get into problems, but also someone who's prone to being incredibly violent.
Yeah.
So it really could go either way, and I think it's ultimately the ambiguity is the point. So
I guess I would say in that case, like, still wouldn't think that he definitely didn't do it, just because he was only violent in the movie, definitely towards people who were evil.
Maybe we're being optimistic.
Unless his wife was an evil person and was trying to murder him when she killed her or something, you know. Like, to people who are good or neutral, he's always very, like, gentlemanly and heroic.
Maybe we're being optimistic. It's like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. He probably didn't commit a vicious murder. But they don't even say how she died. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, that little flashback to on the boat, like, or are we supposed to think that he just, like, pushed her overboard or something? I don't understand this.
The shot makes it look like he shot her with a harpoon.
Oh yeah, he was holding a harpoon with me.
Anyway, that's a pretty brutal way to go out.
To get away with it. He could get away with it in that case. Just, she fell overboard. I can't do anything about it.
I accidentally shot her with my harpoon.
Never find the body.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's easily the best thing I've seen this year. But where does that sit? Where does it sit in relative to Ad Astra for you?
I gave them both the same star rating. I feel like once I see both of them again, I'll probably give them both 5s, because the first time I was like, maybe a few flaws. Actually, there wasn't a few flaws with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I still was like, it's not really quite the enjoyment of a 5. But now I feel like it is, after it sat with me for a while. So I'll probably give that one a 5, and then Ad Astra I've been really enjoying, so I might give that one a 5 once I see it again too, even though it has flaws. We'll see.
I need to see Ad Astra again, but I really liked it the first time I saw it. Like, what came across to you as a major flaw?
Like the technical aspects. So it didn't really matter to me, but there was technical problems with the space. Like when he goes to the moon, people are walking around on the moon like it's Earth gravity inside, but if they go outside, then it's normal moon gravity. So that's just like a technical flaw that would be really hard to do properly, because you'd have to like somehow get all those people to be like doing the low gravity inside, which would be really weird. But like technically it's a flaw, you know. So I kept noticing little things like that and being like, okay, but it's fine, you know, it doesn't really affect the story any.
I actually didn't notice that. That's interesting. I mean, my gut instinct is probably just to say that there's like some sort of inflated gravity on the moon somehow,
like the magical gravity or whatever.
Or it's like there could have been like one line of dialogue that says you are now entering the Earth level gravity zone.
Or something. But then it's just like it kind of like takes you out, because you're like, how do they do the gravity? Because you know, on spaceships, if they're like spinning or whatever, you're like, okay, there's the gravity. But when they're just like, okay, now there's gravity, you're like, where does it come from? You know. I was trying to be realistic, so.
I'll
Just kind of like
say
breezing over it is fine.
I'll say in the movie's favor, I didn't even think of that. I was just so engrossed in the themes
Yeah.
and what was going
I
on.
I probably only thought of it because I was reading Andy Weir's latest book, which is set on the moon, and he
Oh
talks
yeah,
about the gravity a lot in that. So it occurred to me because it was like commercial on the moon, which was what the book was. So it like my brain made that connection. Then I was like, oh, but they're not doing the moon gravity stuff. So
someone.
otherly, I probably wouldn't have
Oh,
noticed it
holy
either.
crap! Someone else thought of Artemis in that movie. I'm like,
You noticed it too?
I read it back when it came out like a year ago, and I reviewed it.
Yeah,
I really liked Artemis.
I didn't like it as much as The Martian, but it was a good read.
Oh, The Martian's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
You're not gonna beat that. But
Yeah.
apparently The Martian was written collectively. Like he wrote it as a blog, and then he would write new chapters for the blog and go back and change things whenever his readers said that there was something wrong.
Yeah,
So it was,
like people would be like, "Oh, you did that wrong," and he'd go back and fix it.
yeah, so there was a lot of like
That's so cool.
it had a really heavy editorial process to it, which is really unique. So it's
Yeah.
don't obviously Artemis can't really do that if it's being written like a traditional book.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my gosh, though I like Artemis a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
did you know it's being adapted by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller?
for real.
Yeah, the Lego Movie guys.
So they're doing a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be great.
Yep, they got picked up to do it like right after they got fired from Solo.
Oh man, I did not know that. That's gonna be fun. That'll be really cool to see how they do the gravity. Because I thought that was the coolest part of the movie when she's like fighting in the low gravity and all the cool things you can do, and like how high the stairs were.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just the stuff that sticks out to me.
I'm a little worried because they're improv comedy guys, so they could go a little overboard with it, but they're also astoundingly good writers, so they might handle it well.
I mean, they can do pretty good like drama too, as long as it has some comedy in it. Which I think that would work for the tone. It probably won't be as good as The Martian either, but it'll be worth watching. I didn't think that they were going to make it a movie at all, so I'll be happy with any movie.
I could see the logic of it being that they wanted to go like in the complete opposite direction after The Martian went like full Ridley Scott. Like,
Right.
how far
Yeah.
can we take this book that can't possibly be as good as as Ridley Scott's movie? Like, the opposite direction, as hard as possible.
Just make it like a really campy, ridiculous, fun moon movie. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh,
It'll work with the plot.
I'm so giddy now. It's not even. I'm not even.
Man, I hope this actually happens. I don't hope they don't like drop it again or something.
Well, I'm gonna. Now I'm like dying to find out. I'm gonna see what's Wikipedia. When is I'm just saying this out loud so that it doesn't sound like there's like dead noise at the moment. do 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 do. Okay. Artemis 2021. So it is
So far away.
Yeah, it's tragic. Why do their movies take so freaking long to make?
Oh well.
They spend like 4 or 5 years on a film. It is crazy.
Yeah, I remember when Ready Player One was first being made into a movie, and I heard of it. I was like, I'm gonna buy this book and read it before the movie comes out. And I read the book, and then I waited 2 years, and then I got to see the movie.
Oh gosh, and that book is from like 2011, so I can only imagine if you read the book when it came out and then waited 7 years.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But then that movie was like, the amount of special effects in that movie, I get why it took that long.
Yeah.
But back to the Ad Astra topic. 3 tangents later. I mean, I didn't even notice a lot of the technical stuff just because I was so into like the themes of the movie and what it was going for. The only thing that really distracted me was that it was overtly ripping off 2001, like stylistically. Like,
I didn't really get that. It just seemed like a normal space movie to me. Like,
I mean, it felt like maybe it's just because I've seen 2001 multiple times and it's something close to my heart, but I saw the correlations very, very openly. Like, it didn't bother me because it's essentially saying the exact opposite message of 2001, which is very fascinating that you would do that, but...
Yeah. I Well, it seems one has basically influenced all science fiction, so it's just impossible to get away from it.
Well, what was your primary takeaway from the movie thematically?
From Ad Astra?
Yeah.
Like, I really liked how it's like when science fiction has humanity in it. So it was really cool for me. Like, the whole movie was like so like distant and stuff, and then it like as soon as it gets like so far away from the movie, it just kind of like turns around and looks back at Earth, and it's just like so warm towards humans, you know, and humanity, and it's just it was really sweet. I thought, like, just it's hard to put into words. Just,
I get what you mean. There's a very real yearning to the movie.
yeah, it just loves like humans. Like he just wants to go and say to his wife that he didn't want her to leave, you know. And it's just like this small thing, and but on this huge scale because he's all the way out at the end of the galaxy. It was really cool.
I kind of read there's a I wasn't the only one to notice that there could potentially be like a secular humanist atheist reading to the movie. I don't know if you saw any of that at all, where it's about a guy rejecting his father figure and.
Oh yeah, I saw that kind of stuff. Like it's about toxic masculinity and how he learns to emote. But he is an emotional person the whole time. It's just that he is like in control of himself.
I'm sorry. The toxic masculinity thing just completely feels like a misread of the entire film.
It really is. It just completely, like, because his dad is not a monster. Like, he starts out as a hero, a legend, and then they're like, maybe he's a monster, or maybe he really is a legend. And then he goes and meets him and realizes that he's just a person, you know, and he's done bad things and he's done good things, and he doesn't love him. He actually like tells him that he doesn't love him, but Brad Pitt's character is just like, it doesn't matter. He's my dad, and I love him.
Yeah,
it's so sweet. Like there's.
But the toxic masculinity thing, I think that would arguably fit better with like Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
something.
A character with that much bravado, just prone to that much violence. I'm like, okay, I could call him in Once Upon a Time as a toxic character, but the idea of him being toxic in Ad Astra just because he's not not expressing his emotions has negative consequences.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do as an astronaut. He's a soldier and an astronaut. He's doing his job, and he does his job and is successful at it every time he does it. Like he's every encounter he has, he prevails because he can keep his cool. So how does that mean that he has toxic masculinity? Because the toxic masculinity is supposed to be something that's a detriment to the person, when his stoicness and cool collectedness is just it's always a good thing for him. It's just that he overdoes it and doesn't add, like, it's like he overworks himself, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the woke version of this movie is he goes to Mars, sends out the message, and then doesn't question his authority at all, and just goes and does what everyone tells him to, they just want him to be completely docile and ineffectual. Like this is what a good man is in the current year.
Oh boy. I'm really glad though that I was like avoiding people's takes on it before I went to see it, and I'm so glad that I did, because that sort of thing did not enter my mind at all when I was watching it. I was just like, this is such a political movie, like even on the conservative side, really, because of all the good like values that it has ultimately. It would have been so annoying to like have known that people thought it was about toxic masculinity, and to go in and be like, is it about toxic masculinity? I don't know, and then have to like deal with that in the watching of the movie. So glad that did not happen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the most political thing I could read into it would just be the atheist message. Just maybe the idea that the movie that could be expressing this thought that trying to reach out into the universe for transcendental answers ultimately doesn't serve humanity's interests, which I don't agree with at all. But I mean,
How is that an atheist perspective then?
well, the idea of rejecting, well, it's an idea of when you try to reach out for transcendent values and through religion, you end up like causing you end up like what's the best way to put it? You end up like putting people's lives on the line and making irrational decisions and allowing people to die for the greater good when it shouldn't be and stuff like that.
Okay, I just didn't really get that from the movie, I guess.
I mean,
I thought that it had a positive, like, space.
I think it is too. I think that, and that's why my primary positive takeaway from the film is I'm just saying that I'm having read as much as I have from atheist writers. I'm like I could see that being their takeaway from the film.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So, any other thoughts on that then, or do you want to move on to like something else for?
I don't know. I feel like I probably have lots of thoughts that I'll think of later.
Oh man, I guess there's two more things I kind of wanted to bring up. I'm about to hit my cease to function cap since I'm an elderly man, but there's two other things I wanted to kind of bring up before we kind of wrapped up for the night. You're in no way controversial take on Spider-Man being sent back to Sony.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny because I don't feel like I have controversial takes, but then people tell me that I do all the time, and then they tell me what they are, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess you could take that as controversial.
I mean,
I just don't see it like that for some reason.
I mean, put you and Jacob Airy in a room, and it would just turn into a vicious fight. I mean,
I'm much nicer in real life than I am on the internet.
Aren't we all? I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, with Spider-Man, that whole situation, I'm not mourning at the moment just because I can tell that no one is currently doing anything because they haven't announced any plans. Like, I would suspect all this is just kind of they're still keeping this all behind closed doors until they officially announce what their plan is for Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Like, all this, as far as I'm concerned, all this is kind of closed off until they make that announcement of what the plan is, whether or not Tom Holland is still going to be Spider-Man.
Oh, he's still going to be Spider-Man. That's not a question.
It wouldn't surprise me if he is, because I think they've kind of got the...
That's the whole point, right? Because if they took him away and then fired Tom, like, they'd have to start from scratch again. And the whole point of them selling themselves to Marvel in the first place was so that they could get a viewership for their own movies.
I
agree.
If
they fire Tom, they're basically throwing away their viewership, which is the whole point.
My only reason I think that could come to fruition is because there's a tendency amongst like new management always to clean house the moment you take over. So it's
not really new management though. It's just they're going through with their original plan, basically.
I guess my fear is just that it could turn into a situation where Sony's just like, well, we made one good Spider-Man movie. We know how to make all of them good now, especially after Venom. And I'm like, we're gonna just hire a brand new guy and do it. Like, no, please don't. Like,
yeah, I guess I can see that fear, but I really don't see it happening at all. They're at least gonna make one with Tom, and then if it doesn't do good, then maybe they'll think about rebooting it. But I am like almost 100% on that. I would bet money.
I would be fascinated if they like brought Spider-Verse into the third movie.
Just like animated characters with the live action.
Well, not even that. I think if they really want to like make things not crazy, the way they should do it would be like bring like the other Spider-Man actors into the live action and like do like a Avengers for Spider-Man with like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
I mean, that would be interesting, but
it would be completely unique.
I really don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna make like a solo Spider-Man movie just to see, you know.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
Because that's the problem with what Marvel did was with their like wasting his character by adding other characters to the movie. When it's freaking Spider-Man, people will go see any Spider-Man movie. Just give him a solid solo movie, and people will love it.
I mean, that's. His kind of being like in the shadow of the MCU always kind of bugged me, but yeah. I mean there are a couple things I don't like about this particular rendition, especially the lack of Uncle Ben.
Yeah, well, they can do different stuff with it now.
Well,
I don't know if they can add Uncle Ben in though.
At this point, probably not. But by the fact that they didn't introduce that character at all means that there's nothing haunting this version of Spider-Man. So there's no constant sense of existential dread except for the things he's immediately doing. Which I thought that was actually probably one of the better things from Far From Home, was just the sense of just constantly messing up. But
yeah.
What did you, we didn't address Far From Home. Where does that sit for you?
I enjoyed it. I really, it's really remarkable how little I care about Marvel movies now after like Endgame. I feel like it's just over. I'm like, what did Spider-Man actually come out this year? Wow, you know. But I still like Tom Holland, and I like the way he can play Spider-Man. So it was entertaining enough, but it was not as good as Homecoming in my opinion.
I actually think I liked Far From Home more than Homecoming. I mean, to me, Homecoming didn't. It was too meandering of a movie, which I don't know if that makes sense, but like to me, there was this constant sense in Homecoming that the plot wasn't always focused on moving forward.
It was halfway a Spider-Man movie, halfway like a John Hughes high school movie.
Yeah, and I felt like all of the things it was trying to go for, it didn't really hone in on dramatically. So it felt like it was like Spider-Man just meandering around New York for 2 hours. So,
I like that. That sounds like a good description of a Spider-Man movie, in my opinion.
Well, I wouldn't say that's the same with something like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, which felt very focused and constantly like they were moving in the right direction at all times. Even if I don't know if you like those movies or not, but
yeah, I did. Yeah, I'd just rather have Spider-Man meandering around New York than Spider-Man on a mission overseas. You know, because he's supposed to be in New York.
I get that, but Spider-Man didn't even have a single web swimming scene in New York City until like the end of Far From Home. And honestly,
yeah, that's true.
Some of those shots were some of the best I've seen of Spider-Man ever, and I love those. Like
it was, yeah. That actually that stuff at the end of Far From Home made me like the whole movie as a whole less, just because I realized what I was missing in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the 5-star movie arc of Tom Holland's Spider-Man is becoming the actual Spider-Man. And then I guess now that Spider-Man 3 is going to be him like being in New York as Spider-Man as everything just kind of crumbles around him.
Yeah, I wonder how much of the end of Far From Home they're going to keep.
I suspect a lot, considering how big of a setup that is. And
I wish that they would just ignore it. I didn't like that twist.
I mean,
I like Spider-Man hiding his identity. I think that's like one of the best aspects of his character.
I agree, and I think that having that setup ultimately kind of sets up the third movie for a really pigeonholed status quo, where now it's just going to be like a movie about him on the run or something like that, and I could see that not either. Depending on how they approach it, it could end up being really good, or it could end up being really not good.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell at this point.
and I honestly, I really hope they change directors. I'm not a John Watts guy.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I don't think I'd mind either way.
If they want to keep the tone of the first two, it's fine. But honestly, I think that if they want something that's more fulfilling for a final, or even if it's not Tom Holland's final installment, just have something.
A trilogy kind of thing. Yeah.
It's the Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah. Maybe they could get someone else to write it, and then he could still direct it.
Well,
or something.
I think the Homecoming I know it was apparently it had like 5 screenwriters, and
oh yeah,
when you look at all of their collective filmographies, it is not encouraging. It's like, oh, the Vacation reboot and Horrible Bosses.
It does feel very much like a movie by committee kind of deal.
Yeah.
It's just like little moments that really work.
Yeah.
And then as a whole, it's kind of a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why I don't know, I just lost my train of thought, but so yeah. So yeah, controversial Spider-Man opinions, but I guess the last thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about tonight was What are you most looking forward to going into the rest of the year?
1917.
Oh man.
That's the last really looking forward to. And Star Wars, of course, but that's just a given. Who knows what.
Well, liking Star Wars now has become a political statement, unfortunately. So.
Ah.
I didn't say it was a good thing, but like, say if you're saying, "Hey, I can't wait to go see that Star Wars movie," you're gonna get like some guy being like, how dare you like Star Wars after."
I hate Star Wars. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're watching Star Wars because they're retconning what Rian Johnson did.
Or I can't believe you like Star Wars after X point where I started getting mad at them. I mean, everyone seemed fine through Rogue One, or didn't, or they didn't, or they weren't fine with it from the outset. Either way, but
it's whatever. It's Star Wars, so I'll watch it.
That's a good attitude to have. It's a movie. I'm gonna go watch it. But yeah, I mean, 1917. Holy crap! I mean, I don't think I've seen a movie that like a World War I movie with that kind of scope and.
Yeah, like what even World War I movies exist? Like the only one that I can think of is like War Horse.
You have to go back. Like All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them because.
Yeah, there's so many World War II movies and so few World War I movies. They just really need to just dig into that. It looks really nice.
Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, Wonder Woman. They had that one scene that was in the trenches, so that was good.
I mean, World War I's not the fun war. It's not the one that's like easy to tell like a good and evil story in. So it's like, I get why people don't do it, but
it just has such cool technology and imagery because of the trenches and the gas, and then like having horses and tanks at the same time. Like war-wise, it's just such an interesting era of like change.
Oh sure. Did you see the Peter Jackson documentary about World War One?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh man, you are missing out. That was on my.
I should see that before 1917 comes out.
Oh gosh, that'd be a heck of a double feature. I was lucky enough that I got to see it in theaters last year in time to add it to my best of the year list. It was
nice.
It's so freaking good, and especially since that's like the only thing since Lord of the Rings he's made that's good. I mean, unless you're into King Kong.
King Kong. I like King Kong.
King Kong is controversial, but I like it too. But
I just really enjoy it. I don't care if people think it's crap, but I just really enjoy it.
Oh, there's like half the things in it are good and the other half are bad. So it's
like so silly and then like just great and then just I don't know. It's just one of those. It's like a comfort movie kind of deal.
Oh, I totally get that.
Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, this fall is pretty packed, all things considered, movie wise. There's a lot I want to see coming out, and unfortunately, my most anticipated movie, Knives Out, is now the most horrific political statement of the year. So
that was too bad. I was looking forward to that too because I generally liked Rian Johnson. Like I really liked The Brothers Bloom, and I thought that he would like once he got off of Star Wars, he would probably make more good movies, but apparently not.
I think it's gonna be good, but I think it's also gonna be like a really pandery political statement. And
yeah, so maybe you can get over it and it'll be fine. But
yeah, I mean, it just depends on how much of it's subtext and how much of it's ignorable.
Yeah. Most of the time it's fine. You're just like, well, that was a political statement, and then you just move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I forget where I wrote, but I wrote about it for Legal Insurrection. I said, if this is what it seems to be, he's setting himself up as the filmmaker du jour of the progressive left, where he's gonna be like their favorite filmmaker going forward, and that's just the bet he's putting in. Is like, oh, I made The Last Jedi and Knives Out, and you loved both those movies, so you should go see the rest of my movies when they come out.
Yeah, I was hoping that he would not do that. I was hoping that he'd be like, well, after The Last Jedi, I'll just, go back to making movies like Brick. And instead he's like, I'm going to embrace this, like, weird, controversial side of myself for some reason.
I think, it gets him attention and money, so...
Yeah, so, good move, I guess.
Did you like Looper?
Yeah, I liked it all right. It was kind of confusing to me, I guess.
I would have thought that would have been like your film of his, because you're science fiction aficionado.
The logistics of it did not make sense, and then I didn't watch it twice. I think I've only seen it once. So it like for time travel stuff to work for me, I need to be able to understand the logistics of the time travel, and like it didn't like work quite right, because it was weird how like the stuff in the past would change at the same time as the stuff in the future, like when the guy's getting his like fingers cut off and he's losing his fingers in the future or whatever. You remember that part?
Yeah, I do. I think it works as like a really creepy visual, but I could see why that would annoy
like
someone.
the logistics of it, it's like it works, but then the logistics confuse me, and then that's the part that I pay attention to when it's time travel, so it's like it wasn't as good as it could have been, I guess.
There's a scene I like in that movie. I remember I watched Red Letter Media's review of the movie, and they pointed this out. There's a really good scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis are sitting down at a table, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is just like, I don't understand what's happening. Can you explain it? And Bruce Willis is like, you know what? I could pull out a chart right now and explain everything that's happening, but that's not the important thing right now. And I think that's kind of why I like the movie, is that it's more so about just these two characters interacting than it is about the logistics of time travel.
Yeah.
Which I think that's ultimately what bothers people about Rian Johnson's movies outside of his politics. It's just that he seems to be more interested in like playing fast and loose with the logic of his story and letting it be more about the implicit meaning and the theme.
Yeah.
And that that bothers a lot of people.
Yeah, that works fine for me in some cases. For some reason, with Looper, I think just because it was about time travel, and I always nitpick time travel movies, it like bothered me. But like he does that exact same thing in The Brothers Bloom. The logic of that movie doesn't make sense, but I really enjoy it because of the two characters. But that's not a time travel, so it's for some reason I give it a pass.
Time travel, it seems to be one of those things where it just gets in people's craw, and because it's the logic of it just breaks down consistently unless the rules are established very, very, very plainly.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, there's always going to be some kind of like paradoxes in time travel movies, but like as long as, like you said, the rules, and then you follow the rules. I just didn't understand the time travel of Looper enough to know what even the rules were, so I guess maybe I should watch it again and try to figure it out, because I did enjoy it. Like, other than that.
I would be amiss if I didn't ask. Did the time travel in Endgame bother you?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it did. Like, most of it, it worked fine. Up until Cap goes back. And to take the stones back. And then him coming back as an old guy, but not coming through the portal. It just completely ruined the entire thing.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I don't know why they didn't just, like, manifest back on the portal as an old man.
Because it was more dramatic that way.
Or maybe it would have been funny if he, like, manifested on the portal with the bench with him. He's just sitting in the bench on
great.
It wouldn't have been dramatic, but it would have been funny.
I think it would have been plenty dramatic just to have him suddenly be old, you know? Like, if he just, like not even, if they had been like, it's not even going to take 4 seconds or whatever it was, you know? He just, like, suddenly becomes old. Like, that's how long it took, you know?
Sure.
That would have been kind of interesting. But I see why they did it that way, but it kind of ruined the whole deal.
All right. On that note, I kind of feel like I need to sign off for the night, but thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Have a good night.
All right, you too.